If you're renting in Mississauga or Toronto right now and you're wondering whether to keep renting or to finally buy, here's the direct answer. For most people, staying 5 years or more, buying still wins. But where your break-even point is going to be completely different depends on whether you're in Mississauga or in Toronto. And almost nobody puts these two numbers side by side. I'm Maria Ho with Maria Homes team, and that's exactly what I'm going to show you today. I have people just like you reaching out to me every single week trying to answer this exact question. If you want to run your own specific numbers, please feel free to call or text me directly at my number below, and I'd love to have a conversation about your particular situation. Or you can also book a time with me using the link that's in the description below. You don't have to figure this out alone. So let's get into it. Here's what we're covering today. What rent actually costs right now in Mississauga versus Toronto, what buying actually costs in both markets, and I'll also show you a real-life scenario of a $400,000 condo using actual mortgage rates that our clients are getting right now. And then the number that actually matters the most, how much of your money comes back to you as equity after 5 years of owning versus renting. So stick with me because we're going to dive into these numbers, and this will help you have more clarity and confidence on making your decision either way. Let's start with what you're paying today if you rent. In Toronto, average rent right now is $2,234 a month for a one-bedroom and $2,947 for a two-bedroom. In Mississauga, it's more like $2,070 for a one-bedroom and $2,510 for a two-bedroom. So Mississauga is roughly $165 cheaper per month on a one-bedroom and about $440 cheaper per month on a two-bedroom. That's real money. Over a year, that's over $5,000 saved in rent alone if you're renting a two-bedroom in Mississauga instead of in Toronto. Now here's what buying a property would cost using the real number for each city, not a GTA-wide blend. The MLS Home Price Index benchmark for the City of Toronto in July of this year was $928,000, which is down 3.8% from a year ago. In Mississauga, the benchmark price was $880,000, down 5% from a year ago. So here's the honest read. Toronto's typical home is running about $48,000 higher than Mississauga's right now, which is what most people would expect. Toronto is actually holding up a touch better than the GTA-wide composite, which is down 4.6% year over year, while Mississauga has softened a little bit more than the GTA-wide average this year. But the number that matters the most for most of you guys watching is still the price gap itself. Mississauga gives you a meaningfully lower entry point into homeownership, and that is before we even get to closing costs. I want to make this really real for you, and I want to give you a real life example of a scenario. And I'm not using a rate off of a bank's website for this. Actually, this is the real mortgage rate that our clients are getting right now working with a bank mortgage agent, which is 3.8% mortgage rate. So say you're buying a one-bedroom plus den condo in Mississauga for $400,000 and you're putting 20% down payment. That's $80,000 down. The mortgage loan is $320,000 on a 30-year amortization. All in, your monthly mortgage payment plus $2,800 a year in property tax and $520 monthly condo fee, your total monthly cost comes to $2,244. Now compare that directly to renting a similar condo in Mississauga, averaging $2,070 a month right now. So on a straight monthly budget basis, owning the condo would cost you about $174 more a month than renting. So that's the real apples to apples monthly gap. Now, if you only put 10% down payment instead, which would be $40,000 as your down payment instead of $80,000 as your down payment, that same condo would now cost you $2,485 a month, which is $415 more than renting. So a smaller down payment actually costs you more every single month, not less. That's worth knowing before you decide how much to put down. And you can put as little as 5% down when you purchase a property, which is $20,000 in this case if you happen to have less cash on hand. So that's the monthly picture, but monthly cost is only half the story. Here's the part that actually matters most, so stick with me because most people, they don't share this with you, these numbers, which is really staggering. So let's stay with the 20% down payment scenario. That's $320,000 mortgage loan at 3.8% rate and a 30-year amortization. And look at what happens over a 5-year term, since that's the most common term that buyers choose. Over those 5 years, you'll pay roughly $89,000 toward your mortgage. Out of that, about $31,800 goes toward paying down the actual loan balance. That's the principal. That's your equity, which you keep. The rest, around $57,600, is interest paid to the bank. Now, here's the scenario that I want you to really sit with because I'm making this a conservative example. So let's say in 5 years, your condo is worth exactly what you paid for it, $400,000, zero appreciation. It does not go up in value at all. When you sell in 5 years, you pay off what's left on your mortgage, which is now $288,200 instead of $320,000 because you've been paying it down. So you sell your condo for $400,000 minus the $288,000 mortgage balance that you have to pay off. It means you walk away with $111,800 before selling costs. That's your $80,000 down payment that you had put down initially, plus the $31,800 of principal that you paid down on the loan, both coming back to you. So even in this conservative scenario, the condo doesn't gain a single dollar in value over the next 5 years, and you still walk away with $111,000. Now compare that to renting over those same 5 years at today's average Mississauga rent of $2,070 a month. You would have paid $2,070 times 60 months, which is the total of $124,200. When your lease ends and you're moving out of this rental condo, you walk away with zero, or not $1 of that comes back to you. So even in this conservative scenario, a condo doesn't increase in value over the next 5 years. You still walk away with $111,800 versus zero after paying roughly similar money each month. That's the real honest difference between renting and owning. And when we sit down with our first-time home buyers and we calculate these numbers with our clients, it really opens up their eyes, makes it more clear the benefits of home ownership if you have some savings and if you plan on staying at the same place for at least 4 to 5 years. And here's the number that changes the math the most, and almost nobody explains this clearly. Toronto is the only city in Ontario that charges its own municipal land transfer tax on top of the provincial one. Mississauga, Brampton, Vaughan, Oakville, none of them charge that extra municipal tax. So on a $500,000 purchase, you're looking at $6,475 in land transfer tax buying in Mississauga. For the same condo in Toronto, you're paying both taxes, and that's closer to $13,000 before any first-time buyer rebates. It's double the amount of cash that you need on closing day when you purchase in Toronto versus in Mississauga. So you need to be ready to have that on hand when you're buying in Toronto. So if you're renting in Mississauga or Toronto and you're trying to decide what to do next, this isn't about timing the market perfectly. It's about your own timeline and your own numbers and your financial situation. On a $400,000 condo alone, staying just 5 years, even with zero appreciation, no increase in value, you can walk away with $111,000 instead of zero. If you know that you're staying 5 years or more, that's a real number, not a guess. And especially if Mississauga is on your radar, you're getting a lower entry price and a lighter closing cost on top of that. If your timeline is shorter than that, or your situation is more complicated, maybe you're relocating, maybe you're not sure how long you're going to stay, that's exactly the kind of conversation that we should be having, and we can run your actual numbers together with your financial situation and your plans and your goals, not just an estimate. And I have people just like you reaching out to me every single week trying to answer exactly this question. If you want to run your numbers with me, what you'd actually pay in rent versus what you'd actually pay to buy in Mississauga or Toronto, please feel free to reach out. You can call or text me directly. My number is below, or you can book a time with me using the link that's in the description. And if Mississauga is where you're leaning to go to, you can grab my free ultimate guide to moving to Mississauga. The link is in the description. I'd love to connect with you and have a real conversation about your particular situation. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.